Price here, and today I have a little bit of a book review. This is Locksport from No Starch Press, with a team of authors: Joss Wires, Matt Bureau, Walter Belgras, Bandit EA to Z, and Nigel Tolley. Some of these names might be familiar to you. If not, the longer you're in Locksport, you'll end up hearing some of these names due to how prolific these guys have been in their field of expertise. So it's truly an A team of authors here. But Locksport, it is, I think, a really, really good book for anybody that is interested in or just getting into Locksport or has been in Locksport. It is broken up very well. Part one is all about the basics, talks about the history, some of the legalities of lock picking, the laws around the world, how to find groups, and then gets into types of locks and cylinders, your padlocks, cylinder locks, mortise locks. Talks about lock mechanisms, both for your standard pin tumbler locks all the way up into some of the high security elements that you find. Then it starts going into the maintenance of for Locksporters, how to disassemble a lock and repin a lock. And I think these two sections are really good for beginners that are interested in progressing just from your non-guttable locks into some of your guttable locks. One of the sections I really liked was applying lubricant. It talks about not only how to apply it, lightly, but also their recommendations. I know that they mentioned Houdini and Triflow and a few of the other recommendations that you'll find from some of our top pickers in the community. So it's really, I found that really helpful and validating compared to some of the other recommendations I've seen on lubricants. So I really enjoyed that. And then when you get into part two, now we're going to get into kind of a standard format. It's going to start with 3 chapters, all belonging in the same group. The first chapter in the group will end up talking about what you need to manipulate, impression, pick, and some of the nomenclature that goes with it. And then it starts going step by step. And that step by step is really, really well written. And everything's, as we'll see when I flip through a little bit, we'll see how heavy the illustrations are, all in color too. No black and white in this book. And then the third section, or the third chapter in each section, talks about competitions. And I know that a lot of Locksporters won't find themselves in a competitive environment, but some of the tips and tricks that they mention in the competitions is really, really helpful. And I thought that was really neat as I read through those sections, because I'm not anywhere near where I could probably be in a competition, not necessarily skill based, just geographically. But as I read through them, it was really neat because it was like, oh man, that's a great tip. I never really thought about that. Or hey, this is how I could get a faster open. Or here's something to consider to get that open a little bit faster. Part 3 goes into impressioning, and this is probably one of the cleanest, most direct description I've seen of impressioning, especially when you get into the second chapter of that part, where it goes step by step. And again, and this is one of the areas where being image heavy really helped out. because you were able to see exactly what he was talking about when it came to impressioning. Said you're looking for a crater mark here, and then the very next image is the image of a crater mark on your key blink. And I thought that was extremely helpful. So that way you're able to reinforce it with the visual, and then as you're doing it, you can reference back, saying, all right, this is what I'm finding on my key. Is this kind of matching the process here? And then again, with impressioning competitions, how to get that open faster, and some of the tips that he has in there are really good. One of my favorite sections is the safe manipulation. A lot of you know that I like spinning dials. And again, I thought this was probably one of the cleanest write-ups on how to manipulate and get those opens. Starts off with a lot of nomenclature, what type of lock, the different classifications, gives some really good advice on types of locks to go to. Also talks about disassembly and assembly of those locks, which can be a little bit intimidating if you're just getting into safe manipulation, and how to set your combinations and other resources and stuff. And then once you get into the step-by-step, I think this is just really, really well done, describing group 2 manipulation and how to go about it and the procedure for going about it. And then again, getting into the competitions, I don't know if I'll ever find myself in a competition, but some of the tips in there were like, oh man, after I master this even more, I can try some of these tips and tricks to get those opens a little bit faster. And the way that they go about it, or the way that the author goes about it, is just fantastic. I really liked it. There's even a little block section that talks about the Lagarde 3330, which can be a tricky lock. And it goes through and explains exactly how that can be a tricky lock and how to test to see if you got one of those locks that's going to be a little bit naughty for you. So I thought that was really neat. The lever lock picking section, I absolutely enjoyed, because I've seen videos, from Lock Noob or Burmy lock picker and such on lever lock picking, and I've been interested in it, and I have a few lever locks, but this really got me going. It's like, okay, this is really neat. I got the nomenclature down, and then the step-by-step, and was reading this alongside working on the lever locks that I had. And then again, the tips in the lever lock competition, gives you, some ideas of getting those opens a little bit quicker and stuff. And I thought that was truly wonderful, because this is not something that I do regularly in lock picking, but it's something that I'm interested in and I would like to do more of. And this section really helped me out to get going with that. And then it has two appendices, one with other lockpicking games, head-to-head, tic-tac-toe, which I thought was really interesting, which was interesting. Even a shout-out to the belt system, and then where to get equipment with up-to-date links, as this is fairly new book, so everything is up-to-date. But the book itself, I mean, it's a pretty good thick book. I mean, we're talking, how many pages? 370 some odd pages. But as we flip through, talks about the author's Locksport origins, which I thought was interesting. Basics of Locksport. It talks about types of locks that you'll end up finding out there, high security lock elements. It doesn't really go too much in depth on your high security locks, but it gives you a good introduction into that. Here we have our Medico and our pen and pens, our multi-locks. So I thought that was a pretty good introduction, gives a good base for nomenclature as you move forward. Getting into pen tumbler lock picking, the tools. Again, we have full color pictures all throughout, wonderful diagrams, and I thought that was really helpful in the lock picking section was the diagrams and the explanations that go along with those diagrams. So that was pretty neat. Again, here's some of those diagrams. It's talking about some security pins and such. But I just wonderfully laid out, and I can't say anything bad about the book, really. The impressioning section was really good. As you know, here we're talking about step-by-step impressioning, and with the explanation, picture, and showing those little marks that you're going to find on your key blank to determine when you should file, when you shouldn't file, and such, to get those opens. So I found that extremely helpful, having these particular diagrams out there. Safe manipulation, again, I really enjoyed reading this section because it gave me some thoughts and tips on how to go about getting my opens a little bit faster. And I have been getting a little bit faster as I get back into safe manipulation practice. Even has charts that you can print out, which are helpful. And again, here's this block on manipulating the Lagarde 3330. I thought that was extremely helpful because that lock can be particularly tricky when it comes to group 2 manipulation. So, and the tips again in the competition section were interesting. Lever lock picking. This was extremely helpful because it gave me the nomenclature that I needed. Something that I found particularly helpful was when they talked about key bitting and how the bitting is set up. That's something that I just wasn't familiar with, is how to read a key or look at a key and gain information from it. So I thought that was extremely helpful for me going forward. And again, the competition section. And then after the competition section comes our appendices. And one of the things I thought was kind of neat is, like, for the head-to-head competition, it shows step-by-step on how to build this particular apparatus with the code and all that goes into the electronics, which I thought was kind of neat. Here again was that pick-tac-toe, which I thought was a neat idea. And hopefully if I get to go to a conference, I'll run into that. I think that'd just be a blast. But yeah, there's our shout out to the belt system. Talks about that briefly, and then where to get equipment. So this book, again, Joss Wires, Matt Burrow, Walter Belgres, Bandit E A to Z, and Nigel Tolley really did a good job on putting this book together. So who's this book for? I would say anybody that's getting into Locksport and is looking for an excellent introduction, or even folks that have been in Locksport for a while. I think this would be a reference that you could come back to. I know for the safe manipulation part, it's something that, I've gone through and was doing some manipulation, and it's like, oh yeah, there was a tip in there. What was that tip again? And, go back and look at that tip. So I think it has a place on everyone's bookshelf that's interested in Locksport. On the cover from No Starch Press, it's going for about $54.99 US, $73.99 Canadian. You can find it a little bit cheaper on Amazon and probably other book sites. So that's something to keep in mind, but it's well worth it, I believe. And I can't really say anything bad about it. It's just a wonderfully written, clear book. It's written very clear and concise for Locksport. I have to thank No Starch Press for allowing me to flip through the book and show you a few pages there. And yeah, it's just if you're on the fence about it, hopefully this helps. Or if you weren't aware that the book existed, hopefully this helps, get you interested in building a little bit of a Locksport library. Anyways, that's all I have for today. I hope you enjoyed the video and have a wonderful day. Take care.